Brian Ho. Brian is actually from Oakland, graduated from Skyline High School, and he also is early in his career at UC Berkeley. He will be a sophomore next year, and this is something that we're trying to do, is to actually have our program happen a little earlier than the rising seniors, because what has been shown by research is that there's a very leaky pipeline when you get to the large science courses at our universities of California. And what we really want to do is to inspire these young people with clinical experiences, exciting projects in the lab, to hang on through these very large courses, which can get up to 1,000 people. Although the labs can be a lot smaller, it's still very hard. It's still very hard. Anyway, Brian is hoping to major in molecular and cellular biology, and he worked with one of our new research project faculty, Dr. Amin Azam, who I've had the pleasure of working with on multiple projects. He is a psychiatrist, also a devoted expert in medical education. So he also is very involved with one of our other medical school programs, which you may not know about. We have the big medical school here at UCSF on Parnassus. We have a smaller medical school actually over at Berkeley, where it is actually a 5-year program that includes a Master's of Science, and the students do all small case-based medicine. And in fact, one of our URI graduates, Melissa Mio, will be starting there this fall. And so she'll do her first 2 years of case-based learning, a year of graduate work, and then they mainstream into UCSF in their clerkships and in their 4th year. So welcome, Brian.
Thank you, Dr. Robertson, for that introduction. So I got the chance to work on a joint medical program, Higher Hospital Patient Experience, which is the J-HOPE, abbreviated as J-HOPE. So just to give you a brief idea of what the JMP is, JMP stands for Joint Medical Program, which is a 5-year accredited Masters of Science as well as a medical doctorate program that happens at UC Berkeley as well as UCSF. So the thing that sets apart the JMP curriculum from the standard traditional curriculum at UCSF is that the JMP, like Dr. Robertson said, is taught an entirely PBL-based curriculum, whereas the traditional course at UCSF is taught only, I think, Amin said only about 20% is PBL-based. So what is PBL? PBL stands for problem-based learning. So generally, PBL is giving students a set of realistic problems that they'll probably encounter in their actual careers, and giving students full control of how they decide to tackle that problem. So some of the key points include students should be organized in small groups with a tutor, in contrast to large lecture-based groups. Pretty straightforward. Learning must be student-centered as opposed to instructor-centered teaching. Tutor must act as a facilitator or a guide as opposed to a knowledge or content expert. Problem-based in the practical world must be presented at the beginning of the learning process. The problem should serve as a tool for the acquisition of both knowledge and general problem-solving skills. And content knowledge should be acquired via self-directed learning. So what is, after all that, so what is the J-HOPE and how does this fit into the curriculum of the JMP? So the J-HOPE is a program at the JMP where first-year medical students are taken to Highland Hospital in Oakland, where they get to experience 3 out of 4 possible rotations, either geriatrics, GI, pulmonary, or pathology. In addition, they're also giving paper-based cases that simulate the cases that they'll be seeing at Highland, as well as patient narratives that gives the narrative, pretty much simulate narratives given from a patient to give a patient perspective on a doctor's visit. And so how does this fit into the JMP? What makes the J-HOPE program so much more special than anything else in the JMP? Well, personally, I feel that the J-HOPE program fits exactly with the PBL role model. So here's the points of PBL, and again, one of the things that J-HOPE does is that it takes students and puts them, first-year medical students, and puts them in an actual clinical setting, which matches up with number 4 of the points of PBL, problem-based in the practical world must be presented at the beginning of the learning process. These are first-year medical students, and they're put immediately into clinical settings, which is very key of PBL. And in addition, only a cohort of 16 students were taken into Highland Hospital, And so it matches with the first point of PBL, which is small groups of a tutor. And furthermore, the 16 groups of students that were taken in were broken up into 4 more groups, which means that only 4 students were actually in every group. So it matches well with the first point as well. And the paper-based cases I mentioned before, students were actually required to create learning objectives with these paper-based courses, which are pretty much areas of information that the students themselves have to determine which they will need to better care for the patients in the simulated courses. And they determine what they decide to learn and how they decide to actually go about dividing it in the group of students. So again, the matches with the last point, which is self-directed learning, as well as the second point, which is learning must be student-centered. And so my job with the program was to analyze the data taken from the pilot year of the J-Hope project and pretty much compile them and analyze it. So like I said, it is the pilot year. Last year was the pilot year of J-Hope, so the information or data that I was working with is a little more important than next year's just because there was no data previously on the actual program taken before. And so yeah, so the surveys given to each student were pretty standard. First part, including the Likert scale, is just 1 to 5, how strongly do you agree that the program is good? And the second part was 14 free response questions. And just looking at the graph right here, the general trend is that the students seem to pretty much enjoy the program and that it seems to be very effective in what it does. Mostly, it was strongly agreed and agrees. The fourth part, which is about the tutorials, there was some kind of not so great parts about the tutorial, and it's reflected in this as well as the reflection portion, which is the second part. So that's something that will definitely be looked at and definitely be worked on in the future, I hope. So just some common themes noted during the free response. More time came up very frequently. So more specifically, question 2, which asked, do you see any way the PBL case can be incorporated more effectively? And 6 out of 15 students made a reference to a lack of time for a PBL case, which is almost half. And number 7, did the structure of the tutorial support the overall experience? Why or why not? And 2/3 of students answered that time was an issue with the tutorials. Number 7, when I was discussing this with my mentor, he said it was interesting because when they asked about the structure, they were more looking for how the sort of rotations were ordered as opposed to how much time was given. So he thought it was really interesting that even though that's not what they were exactly asking for, that they still went and referenced time. Yeah, even though that they kind of missed the question, he thought that was still good. That it means that time is important to them and that it was a serious issue. And question number 10, what was the most negative aspects of this experience for you? Even though only 3 students out of possible 15 said that the lack of time was a real issue, just the fact that out of everything that they could have said was the worst problem of this program, just the fact that they said that it was the time really makes it important to us and makes us look at it more seriously. And another common theme that I noticed was that students who were in this program tend to look at the perspectives of other people more often. Not only, of course, more importantly, very many references were taken to sort of caring about the patients and seeing how they were being treated and sort of seeing things from their perspective, which is good, which is exactly what this program wants to happen. But also other things such as even taking the perspectives of the teachers. Many students who requested more time actually said that, we want more time, but we understand that there's limitations, or we want smaller groups, but we understand that we don't have that many physicians who are available to everybody else. So that was interesting to see that students actually were not only taking the perspective of physicians, but also taking the perspectives of patients and even teachers. And one more interesting thing that I noticed in the free response portion was that the last question that was asked, or last statement was, I would recommend this experience for next year's first year's JMP class. Every single student who participated in the survey mentioned yes, and not only did they say yes, many of them made very enthusiastic yeses, very big yeses. And here's some quotes. Absolutely, I feel so lucky that we got to be the first. Thank you. It's really interesting that someone actually thanked the program for actually providing them with education that they're paying for. But so yeah, that was really good to hear. And another quote was definitely, I loved Highland. I had never been in a clinical setting like that before, and it made me really excited about the clinical rotation and working in the hospital and in the team in the future. When my mentor read this, he was really excited about it because that's exactly what he designed his program to do, to make people actually excited, not just sitting in the classroom for 2 years and actually just pounding facts into your head. He wanted to throw students into the actual clinical setting and actually have them learn about stuff in an actual practical way. So the next steps for J-Hope. So the program had generally had a good feedback. There's definitely things that we worked on for our next years, but next year's, my mentor said that they are definitely planning on doing J-Hope again, and they'll definitely take the survey and improve it in any ways that it needs to be, and keep whatever is good about it. And so, I didn't include a shadowing slide, but I guess most memorable shadowing session for me was for shadowing my mentor, who's a psychiatrist. Just his way that he interacts with the patients was really, just the really subtle things that he's done, such as the way he dresses, the way how he speaks to patients, even like just the smallest things, like he has a tendency to say just put the word friend at the end of a sentence, and it just kind of makes people who I don't know, right? Just the people he interacts with just feel a little more connected and close to him, which is important for what he does. And yeah, just seeing him in work is just really special, and yeah, that was the most memorable shadowing experience for me. And just acknowledgements and thanks. I just want to thank everybody in the Zahns Research Group, including Amin, of course, Adon, Virginia, and the other members, as well, who unfortunately can't be here, as well as all the members of URI, especially Dr. Robinson, Dr. Guerra, who made this possible. So, thank you.